Greeting friends and welcome to another episode of Living the Dram. I'm Hursty.
I'm Rickus.
And where are we heading this evening, my friend?
Let's jump on a boat, cross the, I don't even know what stretch of water is fucking called, but, and we'll meander our way to Speyside.
Woo! A classic region.
The heart of Speyside, even, as they tend to say, at the BenRiach distillery.
What a lovely place, I imagine.
Someday.
Indeed. Someday we'll visit them all. Probably make a reasonably well put together podcast about it.
We'll give it a shot. With any luck, we can do one live from the... They don't even have a visitor centre, actually.
Not at BenRiach.
No, maybe if the malting floors, they'll let us in. If they're not during season.
Oh, we can head over to Longmorn. It's just next door.
Catch the puggy over to Longmorn. No, this turned out to be a great distillery to discovered many cool things about it, and actually, before I get ahead of myself, it coincides with Master Blender Dr. Rachel Barry's induction to the Keepers of the Quake. A little bit more about that later, though.
Gee, your Gaelic's coming along well. That's impressive.
Research is power. So, yeah, discovered heaps of cool things about this place. In particular, I found probably the fact that they still malt their own barley.
Yeah,
the malting floors are still in operation.
That's very
and
cool.
they're only one of two Speyside distilleries that do that. We'll let you know who the other one is a bit later on. And also, yeah, the puggy, the self-contained railway.
Cool feature.
That would actually be a pretty sick job, being the driver of the puggy.
For sure. For sure it would. You'd have a dram to keep you warm. It'd be a good way to spend an afternoon.
Do you get one every return journey, or?
For sure.
I think you got to compare one.
Oh no, I think it's each way. Realistically, it's the most important job in the whole place because he's got to take the dram from BenRiach to the boys at Longmorn, and then one from Longmorn back to the boys, so that they can make sure they're not making the same whiskey.
Yeah, right. So what did you like about you researching the BenRiach?
Well, just because of the timing of it, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with the Pattison crash, which I found that delightful. The story behind the fellas that ruined the whiskey industry for some significant portion of time in 1900.
Quite a significant portion of time it was too. It's the best part of 50 years before a lot of those.
Those dudes were loose. Loose.
Yeah, it was about 50 years before a lot of those distilleries, even if they did, come back.
Yeah, a lot of the ones
themselves.
A lot of the ones that were mothballed didn't come back, and it was about 50 years before a new distillery was built. So it was a tough time. It was about 65 years of shit time to be a whiskey producer. So, we're lucky that it's not 1900 to 1965 now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be podcasting for many, many reasons.
No,
but the Pattison crash would have been one of them.
Yeah, it'd be far out of our price tag, I think.
Fuck yeah.
So, we might introduce the drams we have today. A few of the BenRiach's selections.
We've last episode we did a no age statement episode, and everything was in line there. This episode we're going for years, and we felt we needed some whiskies that had spent some time in wood. So we've got we'll start with the 15-year-old ex-Tawny port.
And then from there, we'll move on to something I'm yet to actually try, a 15-year-old Pedro Ximinez sherry wood finish.
And then finishing with the one that I'm yet to try, the 17-year-old peated.
Septendecim, I believe.
I love a peated whiskey, as you well know, Rickus. So, yeah.
And you are responsible for my conversion
to
the brethren of the peat.
But all three of these should be excellent whiskies in their own right. So, I'm looking forward to this one.
Actually, I'd love to do, just getting a bit off track, a comparison between the Septendecim and the Bowmore White Sands, because they're both 17-year-old. Their own main difference, I guess, but one's an Isla and the other one's a Speyside.
Yeah. So there'd be I would imagine there would still be a significant difference in the flavour profile.
There
because of the waters and just the I mean, Isla isn't just peat. You know, there's that. There's the salt. There's so much that goes into that uniquely Isla taste. So and I found myself being in younger years a bit denigrative of peated whiskies that weren't Isla, because I'd gone in expecting that Isla profile and it just wasn't there. So, but in saying that, I'm still really fucking looking forward to this whiskey.
Excellent. Oh, let's get right into it then and start nosing that tawny.
Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bang. It's like it's almost like a Liverpool kiss. Just a sweet little headbutt. Boom.
Yeah,
the port's the hero there.
Oh yeah, it's jumping right out at you.
Yeah, really, that bottom heavy, fortified flavour, you know.
There's a little bit of top sting. I don't know if I'm nosing it too deep. Just a tiny little bit of top sting on the nose.
Yep, there is. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's all mids and bottoms. Nice deep colour to it as well from, I dare say that's, the port influence.
I was just going to say, is this cask strength? It doesn't smell cask strength. 46%.
46, yeah. A lot of them run at, the BenRiachs run at 46.
Oh, they know their whiskies pretty well, and they do tend to bottle them when they're right. Yeah, there is that little the alcohol portion of the port that's kind of blending in with the toasted barley there.
Actually, it's very port heavy. I'm struggling to cut through much else.
I'm a little the same. I'm trying to see if there's more to it. I'm sure there is.
So as I said before, the BenRiach is located in the heart of Speyside, which is the northeast region of Morayshire, between the town Rickus and the city Elgin. Could be Elgin, I'm not sure. And the distillery is situated amongst the rolling barley fields that rise to the foothills of the Grampian Mountains. It sounds like a very picturesque place to be. The barley used in crafting the whisky is grown around the distillery, and the water was and still is drawn from Burnside Springs through the rock that lies deep below the distillery.
Yeah, you gotta respect a water source that's deep underground. Some of those beautiful soft waters that some of these distilleries have access to that are underground and a lot less open to being tampered with or tainted by pollutants.
And I think that the minerals contained therein would be unique to that particular distillery. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a large contributing factor to a lot of the flavours.
Absolutely, and that's a lot of where you get your texture from. For like and I haven't looked far enough into Canberra towns to say that would be the case there for their particular oily, kind of, that lovely velvety viscosity of it. But I would imagine that it was the softness of the water and the minerals in it that really, gives these different distilleries, especially these prominent ones, the just part of its character, part of its personality. That is so heavy on the port. What's it like on the?
I'm yet to taste, but I'm really struggling to get much more on the nose than the port.
Yeah, I can't. I might have to have a wee taste.
Oh, a bit of unexpected fire. Oh, but then it gives away really nice smoothness. Slightly bitter on the finish as well.
Yeah, that is big for a 15-year-old on the tongue. A lot of pepper, a lot of spice.
Yeah, a lot of high end, but that's I'm getting that up through the nose more so than on the tongue. I think I was saying last week, or last episode, maybe the triple wood, it was sort of giving me the peppery to the sides of my tongue. This is going all the way up through, all the way up through to the nose. But that's just on the start. It doesn't last very long at all.
No, and that second mouthful, a lot of that intense spice at the start's gone. It's a much smoother whiskey. Still very port dominant.
Yeah, it really, really is.
I'm struggling to get the sense of the malt itself.
You get a little bit of wood and a lot of port.
Yeah, that is certainly the case.
But I still, with every sip, I'm still getting that. Oh, it's almost like vapors sort of coming out my nose, burning my nose a little bit. But not in an unpleasant way, though.
No, it just seems to be characteristic of the whiskey. I wouldn't say it tastes young. It's spicy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's the port influence. I don't know. Does port go into virgin? This is something that I'd never really thought about until...
Yeah, me neither.
So if port goes into virgin oak, then is your ex-American cask-aged BenRiach... God, that was a terrible... All words that make sense, that I know the meanings of and how to spell them, but the order just blew it out.
A bit of a Picasso, that sentence.
It was very surrealist.
Much heaps good, not sense made.
Pardon me. The point that I'm trying desperately to make is that if you're taking, say gets 13 years in ex-American bourbon barrels, does that then go into something that's had port for X amount of time in it? What would happen, or is this a result of the port being younger and putting more spice back into the whiskey? Did any of that make sense?
Yeah, and I think this is something we will have to explore further. You've raised a very, very good point that I've never considered before.
I'm now quite interested in how that works, because it feels like with that warmth that starts just here, just where that little divot is in the rib cage, the warmth starts there and it's warm all the way. There's no fire, so it's a nicely aged whiskey. It doesn't feel or taste or even smell like a young whiskey, but it seems to have characteristics of a younger whiskey than I expect on the palate.
Yeah, like I said, that the best way I can describe it is that alcohol vapor that comes out my nose after a sip. It's not terribly pleasant, but the taste of the whiskey itself far overshadows that.
Oh, the whiskey's lovely.
Now that I've got a bit of the port on the tongue, the wood is starting to come through on the nose.
Yeah, there's a little bit more wood on the nose, but
It's nice and smooth.
The port is massively dominant on the nose.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling to find anything on the nose that's characteristic of the malt.
Well, they are famous for their incredibly wide spectrum of whiskies. They do tend to do a lot of different finishes, and the distillery itself sorts their bottles into classic Speyside, peated wood finishes, single cask, and super premium.
Geez, super premium.
Yeah, super premium it is.
I think I'd like to try one of those super premiums.
Yeah, I'd queue up for that.
Just on fucking marketing alone, they've created a desire for me just by giving me a fucking something I can't have.
Wait for it.
Good.
Keep that marketing thing in the back of your mind.
Always.
But I'll continue on with a few of my notes. So, creativity and a passion for experimentation seems to be BenRiach's modus operandi. They use 3 different styles of malts in production: the unpeated, peated, and triple distilled, which I think is more akin to Irish whiskey.
Yeah, Irish whiskies are often triple distilled, aren't they?
The distillery have even gone as far as to name the distillery of the lab.
Maltology.
And here we go, in a true testament to marketing wankery. They go as far as to say, we call it BenRiach Maltology.
Brilliant.
Maltology is even a registered trademark.
No fucking way. I didn't realise that was a fucking registered trademark symbol on the word. Good on them. Wankers. Fuck it. Yeah, you got to do what you can. But their whiskey speaks for itself. But at the end of the day,
it really does. But I think
you've got to buy into the marketing spin somehow. I might hate it, I might detest it, I might talk shit about it, but I recognise why they do it.
I think you and I have a slight bias, both coming from a design background.
Well, that's true, and the conflict that we both experienced doing something that contributed to something that we hate so much. Complex people.
And as we mentioned at the start, BenRiach is one of only 2 remaining Speyside distilleries that still do on-site floor maltings.
That's very cool. That's basically the reason they remained in existence.
Yeah, you're right, actually. You're right.
I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that they had their floor maltings operational when they fell silent, only 2 years after they opened, then, I don't think they would have, gotten the easy ride back in.
Resurrected, yeah. I agree. Lucky Longmorn was just down the road.
Oh, man.
But I do have a quote from Alistair Walker, the regional sales manager, who said, we couldn't malt sufficient barley to cover our current production, and we'll still have to buy in most of our malt barley. So they're not completely self-sufficient. No,
but then again, their output these days would far outstrip what they ever intended to make. But and I think they only do their floor maltings once a year, is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's seasonal.
Yeah. So, but I think it's...
So if they grow their own barley and then malt their own barley, it would be a seasonal thing.
So I love the concept. I love the concept of...
It is. It's very working class.
And it's self-sufficient. You know, it's not relying on anyone else. If there's something happens to old mate's farm down the road, well, fuck, I'm still producing whiskey. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm charging you triple.
Yeah, true.
You know, you're protecting your product by being able to do it no matter what the external influences are. It's certainly how I see myself running my distillery one day.
I would love to be totally self-sufficient.
That'd be the way to go.
If it's even possible.
I think it would be. I think
it'd be hard.
I think it would cost you more, and you would have less product at the end of it. But I think you would be happier with your product. I would be anyway, because I'm a wanker.
Hopefully, Hopefully, you end up with a decent product.
Yeah,
that would be heartbreaking.
Oh, wouldn't it?
putting that much effort in. And
But yeah, your first malt ain't gonna be your best. That's that's fair to assume.
Yeah, port and wood.
Yep.
Port, wood, smooth.
I really want to be able to say more about it, but I don't think I can.
I'm really not getting much of anything else.
I mean, it's obviously a specialist wood finish with the tawny port, but it is it dominates the malt far beyond any other wood finish I've experienced. And don't get me wrong, this is not a bad whiskey in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
It's very sweet. You know, that port. It's like a warm port hug. It's a warm hug from your port drunk uncle, and your big beard.
Way to get creepy.
Well, yeah, we go. He's a nice guy. He never touches you inappropriately, but he drinks a lot of port. He's overweight. He's got a big beard, and he gives you a big warm hug when he sees you. That is what this whiskey is. That's the picture this whiskey's painting in my mind.
So, do they say anything revelatory on the back? So this is matured in the traditional style American bourbon barrels. The whiskey is then finished in aged tawny port hogsheads, sourced from the Douro region in the north of Portugal. So I wonder what they mean, aged. During the second period of maturation, the whiskey derives many interesting characteristics specific to the port hogshead.
Like the port. I don't know.
I wonder what they mean by aged. Like, I give 2 days is technically aged. It's aged 2 days in the cask.
I wonder what
And aged is also written with a capital. Aged tawny port.
Yeah, it is too.
It's like it's important.
Well, that's just what the company that creates those hogsheads is called. The
It's called
Aged Tawny
Aged.
Port Hogshead Company.
It's like that 100% Australian beef, Macca's.
Yep. Superb. Pardon me.
So BenRiach stills, they're the traditional onion-shaped copper pot stills, but somewhat interestingly enough, they don't have the boiling reflux bubble in the neck. They have a yearly yield of about 3 million litres, and they use, as we mentioned, a wide range of casks to mature their whiskey. They're all generally matured in American oak before being finished in casks including Pedro Ximinez, Madeira, dark rum, tawny port, claret, burgundy, and Rioja.
That's a good range. That's I like that they're willing to push the envelope and do things that are a little bit different.
Yeah, that's. But like, I also read, and then that got me thinking as well. Like, while they're very experimental and creative, lots of different finishes, but it's very, very rare to just get just something straight BenRiach, like that have only been American oak single cask or even like no wood finish.
Oh, is that just because they're bored doing it that way, or do they feel there's no market for it? I wonder what the actual idea behind it is, because you think like a lot of the really good distilleries have their flagship. Yeah, their flags like.
But maybe that's it, because they're
just do BenRiach have a flagship? I thought I've not seen a bottle of the 10-year-old, but I think the 10-year-old is their flagship malt. Is it not?
Not sure if it's flagship, but it is part of the core range.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe somewhat akin to Lafroig, that is the foundations for a lot of their other malts.
yeah.
But yeah, they're not terribly common.
I will give it one thing. It's got a lovely robe on it.
It sure does.
Real lovely
I was
robe.
waiting for you to call that out, so I was admiring it a bit earlier.
Well, I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I can't get too deep with that. Maybe a hint of vanilla, but port, wood, smooth.
Yeah, you're almost, if you're trying to pull things out, you're almost pulling the components of the port as opposed to the components of the whiskey. It is very heavy on the port, but enjoyable nonetheless.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
It's a good fireside whiskey.
Yeah.
It's a cold night fireside whiskey. You're not in the optimal situation to be enjoying the complexities of a nice 28-year-old. So a 15-year-old port finishes. We're going to warm you up, keep you sweet. You're going to keep going back to the flask for little hits. Of it.
Yep.
It's going to warm you up on around a fire on a cold
Totally
night.
concur. I might delve into a little more history of the BenRiach. So the BenRiach story begins back in the mid-1870s with former publican and Glendronach manager John Duff, who I think I'm going to call Duff Man from now on.
Fuck yeah, Duff Man.
Because he definitely thrust some whiskies in my direction. Some say he was a visionary and a dreamer, but he's not the only one.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Duffman built the impressive Glenlossie distillery in 1876, and he enjoyed success and growth as the whiskey market went from strength to strength, prompting him to look overseas for opportunities. He found himself in South Africa. That was pretty short-lived. That was in 1888, and he did a stint in Kentucky as well, before he moved back to Scotland. And then in 1894, partnered with George Thompson and Charles Shearers to build the Longmorn distillery. The malt was a hit with blenders, so after investing £20,000, which is the equivalent in today's money as about 4.9 million Australian dollars,
Jesus.
into Longmorn, Duff then bought Thompson and Shearers out of their shares, basically hoping to reap the rewards for himself.
Well, as you would.
And because of the whiskey boom, he decided to go all in and punted a further £16,000, or by today's standards, $3.9 million, to build BenRiach. And that was in 1898.
Good on him. Is that why there is 1898 on these glass bottles?
I believe so.
That makes sense.
That would be exactly why, actually. There's very little conjecture there. I don't know if we mentioned either. BenRiach means speckled mountain.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that.
Okay. That might, refer to the view, the lovely view they would have had of the Grampians. So punting all that money into BenRiach seemed like an awesome idea at the time, owing to the boom. And it was just down the road from Longmorn. So they ended up joining them together via a private railway, on which the Puggy was a little steam locomotive, and that was used to transport coal, barley, peat, and barrels between the two distilleries.
Brilliant.
Which was an awesome setup during the golden years of whiskey making. I was sort of thinking before why they didn't opt for horse-drawn rail. But it was a period of boom. They're probably making it rain.
Oh yeah.
So
these horse things. Let's go steam.
Horse. We've got to try and keep that thing alive. Let's just go steam. Even though they could have felt it, like the the leftover mash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Fertilize your barley with horse shit. So I just wish I could completely understand the mindset where they had just that much cash to build their own steam engine.
It'd be like, I'm going to build a distillery, and I'm going to build another distillery on that island over there, and I'm going to build a submarine to get my stuff back and forth between the two fucking distilleries. I mean, I could build a boat. A boat would be cheaper, but fuck
nowhere near as fun.
That's it. It's a whiskey boom. I want a fucking submarine.
Yeah, I want to own it.
Yeah.
I want to build it out of fucking gold.
I don't think gold would be a very clever material to build your submarine out of.
Probably not.
I mean, if you got hit hard
highly corrosive resistance, though.
But very soft.
Hmm.
All a big dolphin would have to do is headbutt you enough times, and you'd be in trouble. And dolphins are fucking belligerent. They're going to headbutt you.
They are. Beware that crafty smile.
That's it exactly. It's a sneaky smile. It's a smirk. It's a smirk. It says, yeah, I jerk off too. I know what this is all about.
Just fucked your sister, bro.
Fucking dolphins. They're not as bad as panda bears. Don't get me fucking started on panda bears. Evolution gone fucking wrong. Anyway.
So BenRiach was just one of 33 Scottish distilleries established in the industrial boom of the late 1890s to cater for the consumer's ever-growing thirst for whiskey. 21 of which were also in Speyside. So
that's great.
Pretty stiff competition, but hey, it was booming. But that was pretty short-lived, and in 1899, it all spectacularly imploded when Pattison's, who was one of the major buyers at the time, went into liquidation.
Those guys were loose. Their story is fantastic, actually.
Yeah. If here we are going on about how building your own private steam engine. These guys take that to the next level.
Yeah, just belligerent. I love it. It's because it was a really good time for whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
It was very fortunate timing. For Duff and BenRiach, had it not been for the Pattison crash, because you had an ever expanding market of French and English people that with the the Great French Wine Blight that happened only a short period before.
Phylloxera, I think the disease, that started smashing vineyards.
But so all of a sudden, because your main drinks or your alcoholic beverages at the time, especially in France and England, were cognac and claret.
Cognac and brandy and claret.
So with that not as available, you've got a huge market opening up for a replacement spirit for the cognac especially. But if I was John Duff, I would have done exactly the same, and I would have cursed those Pattison pricks as well.
Well, the BenRiach closed after about 20 minutes of operation. Though its malting floor remained in use by Longmorn, so Longmorn managed to survive. Actually, BenRiach for a little while was sometimes referred to as Longmorn 2, just because they were so close to each other.
I wonder why Longmorn survived and what Longmorn continued to produce whiskey and BenRiach didn't. I wonder if it was because they were producing mostly whiskey for blends, or if they were just had a little bit more established. They'd been in operation for more than 20 minutes. So maybe it's interesting that two distilleries, one next door to the other, one can fall silent and the other keeps
just
going.
had to sacrifice one, and like you said, because it was a few years older, maybe it had a better reputation. Might have to look into that. And so the doors at BenRiach stayed closed for an unbelievable 65 years. When Glenlivet Distillers bought BenRiach in 1965, only to sell to Seagrams in 1977. But Seagrams did some good things. They added a second set of stills in 85. But then in 94, BenRiach, apart from lashing out and spending marketing capital on a capital R, became a brand unto itself with the release of the first ever BenRiach 10-year-old single malt. Growth ensued up to the point where Seagrams was acquired by Pernod Ricard in 2001, who also had, here we go, I'm going to butcher these three, Altabane, Breville and Copernic in their portfolio.
I think you did quite well there. I have absolute faith that you butchered all three of them, but I think you did it with grace and style.
Blind confidence. Just sound convincing.
I was convinced. I am convinced. I remain convinced.
But I found this kind of astounding that the distillery wound back operations. Actually, the company wound back operations of these 4 distilleries to just 3 months of the year.
Yeah.
So maybe... Actually, no, we're 80 years on from the crisis. I'm really not sure what the mentality was behind that.
Well, and the other thing was, I mean, it was only... They bought them and then less than a year later mothballed all 4.
So it wasn't... Okay. 94, yeah, sorry, 2001. Yeah, less than a year. Yeah, strange business model.
Yeah, seems weird to me, but thankfully, old Billy Walker.
Was it Billy?
Billy
good
Walker.
Good man.
Come through and managed to put together an independent consortium that I think there was a South African connection there.
Yeah, just kind of
ties in nicely.
Ironic. Not ironic, but a little bit peculiar as well, given Duff's experience in South Africa.
Yeah.
You had Wayne Keysweater and Jeff Bell, a couple of whiskey mad sappers. Hopefully that wasn't a racial stillo.
I think you're safe.
We all know how I like to skirt the fringes of racism every now and then.
Well, yeah, that's Australia. Casual racism is part of the Constitution.
Yeah, it's heaps funny when it's not you. So the BenRiach Distillery Company Limited was born, and BenRiach had won its independence. I actually have an interesting quote from Jim Murray, the Bog Father. Little side note, bog in certain Slavic languages actually translates to God. Which is awesome.
That's excellent.
Yeah. So Reverend Jim, I'll quote him here. I might even put on a voice. It was with delight, while sworn to secrecy, that I witnessed BenRiach gaining its independence, when a team led by the experienced and infectiously enthusiastic Billy Walker acquired the distillery. This independence will allow BenRiach to unlock its secrets and bring its fine and surprising malts officially to the market in their natural state for the first time. There cannot be a single true lover of whiskey who will not rejoice because of it.
Well, I'm rejoicing as we speak.
I'm rejoicing and reveling.
Because they basically went straight back into production.
Yeah, they weren't keen to fuck spiders, that's for sure.
Which is excellent.
So in 2008, the BenRiach Distillery Company Limited also acquired Glendronach, I love how that came full circle.
Yep.
Back to Duffman. Followed by the Glenglassaugh, or Glenglassaugh, I'm not sure. Because you can't spell slaughter without laughter. They bought that in March 2013. But then they're acquired by Brown Forman in 2016 for a princely sum. £281 million.
Yeah, they paid some big dollars.
Sure did.
Real big dollars. But Oh, pardon me. It's a good move. Very good move for BenRiach, though, because Brown-Forman also own Jack Daniels.
Hmm.
And Jack Daniels produces a fucking ridiculous amount of barrels.
They certainly do.
Because Jack Daniels have a policy that they have
I
had
think
since
that's
day dot.
Say again?
They've had a policy that they've had from day dot that they only use a barrel once.
I believe that is American legislation, actually. That's not company policy.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that was legislation. I did know it was the practice, but I
It
didn't
keeps
realise why.
it keeps the coopers in business. I know they have a lot of silly, somewhat seemingly redundant practices, like the whole corn subsidies, and keeping coopers in business.
Cool. Well, Coopers need jobs.
They sure do, but I think supply and demand, maybe the country wouldn't be so effed.
But then barrels would probably cost ex-American bourbon barrels would then cost more if there wasn't such a glut of them as a result of that legislation. So that legislation probably plays out well for the whiskey producers in
Yeah, I agree
Scotland
there.
and other
I agree
places.
wholeheartedly.
But yeah, because Jack Daniels produces a fucking ridiculous amount of barrels. So
They certainly
with
do.
that direct connection, they're not going to run short on barrels anytime soon.
So I know for a fact that Hellier's Road in Tasmania uses ex-Jack Daniels as well.
Yeah, nice. Has BenRiach won many awards, Rick? I think I've got a note here that in 2009 they got Whisky Distiller of the Year at the Icons of Whisky Awards in London. Anything to add to that?
I did have a few in my notes, but no, I didn't.
Yeah, that was the only
Didn't
one
consider it
That was the only
super
one I got.
important enough. But what I would like to mention is Dr. Rachel Barry, who is the master blender at all three of those distilleries mentioned before, Glendronach, Glenglassaugh, and the BenRiach. She started her 26-year career in whisky after graduating with first-class honours in chemistry from Edinburgh University.
Cool.
Who else do you want blending other than a chemist?
Oh, 100%.
Her first experience of malt whisky began in the Garrick district in Aberdeenshire, where she was born and brought up to appreciate the nuances of the locally distilled malts. She's also worked with, she has an insane portfolio. She's worked with Glenmorangie, Ardbeg, Auchentishan, Bowmore, and Glengarrick.
Fuck, that's a resume.
Not only that, about 10 days ago, as of October 9th, 2019, she was inducted as a Keeper of the Quake.
What is a Keeper of the Quake?
I'm glad you asked. It basically an exclusive international society that recognises those that have shown outstanding commitment to the Scotch whisky industry.
With a resume like that, you have definitely fucking shown outstanding commitment to whiskey.
People just probably don't understand how grateful they should be towards Dr. Barry.
I reckon you're right.
There's a little bit of Dr. Barry in so many whiskies.
That's fantastic. What a it's lovely to see a finger in so many pies from the same person.
Such a fantastic influence, and also to be able to wear different hats. I guess how we were saying, like the BenRiach distillery is quite creative and experimental, but then Glendronach is very prestigious and sort of, I don't know, say traditional and formal, I guess.
More conservative.
Yeah. Ardbeg, who are also somewhat creative.
They're certainly, with their committee releases, they are pushing the boundaries in their own way, but I do like the whole wood finishes kind of road that BenRiach.
They're also, in a way, it makes a lot of the it makes a lot of the bottlings somewhat collectible.
Yeah, also
in a
very
way.
true. Well, thank you, Dr. Barry.
We are forever indebted.
We really fucking appreciate it. So much so, we're about to have a second dram.
Oh, the sherry, I've been looking forward to this ever since I saw it sitting on your shelf.
You are a sherry lover.
That is so much softer.
That is, now that's right. You can smell the malt. You can smell the sherry influence, but it's not dominating like the port is. Now, fair enough, sherry. I was about to say sherry is a little bit less of a full-on flavour, but sherry by itself is still incredibly sweet, incredibly dominant.
Yeah.
Like you drink small measures of port and sherry because they're fortified wines. They're very strongly flavoured and higher alcohol content. But the difference, I mean, they're both 15-year-old, but the difference of the PX versus the port is, they're completely different on every level. It's nowhere near as overpoweringly sweet. You get the more subtle sweetness of the grape.
But okay, much akin to the Tawny, I'm not getting a lot other than the sweetness of the sherry. If I try and go too deep, I get that, just the alcohol burn. Tiniest little bit of wood.
Yeah, there's a little bit of wood there. There's the grain kind of comes through. There's a little.
You got to search for it, I feel.
Yeah, and there's some tropical fruits in there that blend into the sweetness of the sherry as well. I think there's a touch of banana.
I don't know if it's the power of suggestion or not, but I'll concur with the banana.
Tropical. It's almost candy banana too, because the sweetness of the sherry.
Very, very ripe banana.
Yeah. There's not a lot of. There's no peat. There's no smoke. Not that I expect there to be any. They're not peated expressions of a Speyside, but you don't. It's not lacking. I don't like to use the word lacking, but what I expect is that really crisp cereal note that I'm used to in a Speyside, and if it's there, it's very, very subtle.
It sure is.
There's a little bit of toffee there, but that comes from the sherry, I think.
Yeah. To me, I've just sipped, and that is it's incredibly sweet, almost to the point of like cotton candy.
Yeah, it is quite top heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
On that first mouthful, there's the wood, the spice of the wood.
Akin to the Tawny, I still get that. It might just be my palate today. I'm still getting that alcohol burn through the nose.
Yeah, it's
The vapor burn.
the first sip was a little vapory, a little little unclear, like a little confused.
Getting a little dash of, just a hint of coconut maybe, like coconut ice. Used to love that as a kid.
Yeah, the wood comes through on that second mouthful a lot more.
Yeah, once you've had a sip,
Yeah,
you've kind of deadened that part of your olfactory sense, the wood really comes through on the nose.
But definitely sherry dominant.
But also very, very smooth. almost, pardon me, feels smoother than the Tawny.
I agree. I think it's the warmth, that glow, kind of starts at the back of the tongue, as opposed to the clavicle. Whereas that's where I thought the Tawny started. That warmth, the glow.
Mm-hmm.
So the glow starts earlier. She's a little smoother, a little bit better balanced. Not wonderfully balanced though.
No.
But it is better balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the robe is impressive on it, and the viscosity is nice in the mouth.
Yeah, it does have a gorgeous mouthfeel actually. That sweetness lingers long.
It's got a very, very long finish. The legs on it, it goes for days. I think is there a touch of tobacco or leather in there? I'm just on the nose. I think there's maybe a little bit of, maybe even like lathered soap.
Okay.
Like shaving soap. Maybe I'm just talking myself into it.
Oh, it only comes from somewhere.
There's a bit of an astringent feel to it, not taste, but it's...
On my first sip, I got that. Hopefully that's what you're alluding to. The same as I get on a lot of Highlands. There's this something on the finish that I tend to not like so much. And it just reminds me of bad experiences with whiskey when you might go a bit too hard, a bit too soon because you're a bit too young.
Oh, we've been there, we've all done that.
Might repeat on you. And there's something, on the closer to the rancid end of the spectrum that I tend not to like. But that only after the second sip onwards, that disappeared for me.
Sorry, bro, I was lost in reverie for a moment there. Just remembering one of the most horrific drinking experiences I had.
Do tell.
As a bartender, a 19, 20-year-old bartender in Cairns, hospo nights in Cairns, which is ridiculous, man. It was dollar drinks from like,
how?
I don't know, like 9 till 11. Then it was $2 drinks from 11 till 1. Then it was $3 drinks from 1 till close. And close was like 4 or 5 a.m. Yeah, this is a long time ago.
Oh wow, they're definitely going for bottom of the barrel if they're trying to make money out of it.
Well, it's hospo, so it's just for the other bartenders from the other venues.
Right,
so we'd go to there was several venues that we'd go to. So on Monday nights and Wednesday nights was hospo nights at Sporties and what was the other joint? I can't remember the name of the other joint.
But probably a good reason for that.
Yeah, but so we'd knock off work at 3 or 4 in the morning and go and have $3 Scotch and Cokes, or if we knocked off early enough, it'd be $1 Scotch and Cokes. We're selling schooners for $3.50 at the casino, and I'm drinking fucking $1 Scotch and Cokes. Club 5-9, I think the other venue was called. But anyway,
do you have any idea? Was it Walker or
this particular
Douglas?
Evening, yes, it was Walker, Johnny Walker Red, and I don't think I've even been able to smell it since. And this is also the reason why I don't drink dry ginger ale anymore, because in those days I was a Scotch and dry man, and I have a feeling it may have been around my birthday as well, and there may have been a reason that I had 5 or 6 whiskey and dries lined up in front of me just before it clocked up to $3 drinks or something like that. The last thing I remember is throwing back 3 or 4 Scotch and dries in a row just so that they'd let me get up and go and use the bathroom, because I wasn't allowed to leave the seat while I was quadruple parked. And next thing I remember, security were knocking on the bathroom door going, Hursty, dude, you got to go. No one else is here. Like, the cleaners have been through. This is the only cubicle not cleaned. Please wake up. I finally did. It was an embarrassing and a long walk home at like 10 o'clock.
Sobering.
10 o'clock in the morning on
on
a Tuesday morning. Yeah, because it's hospo night. It was Monday night or Wednesday night. So it was either a Tuesday morning or a Thursday morning. Oh, it's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. You have experiences like that, Rick. They haunt you.
Yeah, with the canned sweaty balls.
Oh. It was a long walk too. In fact, in those days, I rode a fucking push bike, but there was no way I was getting on that thing. I walked. It was horrible. So I apologise for getting lost in reverie, but it was an unpleasant experience, an unpleasant memory, and I'm glad I got to share it with you.
But sorry, so was there an aspect of this that, or was it what I said?
That was what you said. Okay. Yeah, those nights that haunt you.
Yeah. Now I think it might be the sweeter whiskies that tend to do it, because they just bring me back to, because my first experience with any sort of whiskey was Jim Beam.
Ooh.
And yeah, being as inexperienced as I was, and as sweet tasting as that is when you mix it with cola, as a teenager, you can just think you can keep knocking these back.
Oh, some of the things we used to drink, we used to pick up a bottle of that Red Hawk bourbon for $16 a bottle or something like that. When we were still
old
in high
Kentucky
school.
or early times, just anything, whatever was cheap.
Exactly, whatever was on special.
We did not give a rat's.
Nope. No, go halves in a bottle.
Oh god, that's probably a lot of the reason that I just can't do grain. Like I can't do like corn or rye much anymore.
Oh, but in saying that though, I think if you were given a good 15-year-old, rye or corn, you'd probably be far more partial to it. I mean, you just like, when was the last time you had a Black Douglas? Yeah, or
hopefully never again.
Exactly, right? You're not going to go and drink Jim Beam unless someone actually pours it down your throat at gunpoint. So but if they had a really nice 17-year-old, smooth as fuck expression, maybe that would be okay.
I'd give it a shot.
I remember drinking the Woodford Reserve. I don't think it's anything more than an 8-year-old, but there have been some reasonably smooth expressions of bourbon and rye that I haven't hated. No, that I have actually enjoyed, but they do lack the complexity of a Scotch whiskey.
Yep.
Of
nice single malt. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to going to Japan. When we head that way, not physically. I mean, podcast wise, because they do some incredible single malts over there. Their range is superb. But this is a nice whiskey. It's a really nice whiskey. It's a lovely wood finish expression from a distillery that loves doing these wood finish expressions, and it certainly hasn't sold itself short in this range. I'm very much looking forward to that 17-year-old as well.
Yeah, I just revisited the Tawny, and it hasn't got any more complex. It hasn't got any more deeper. But geez, it's nice.
Oh, they both are. They're both superb. Superb drams. I think the
Tawny is definitely like an earlier in the day thing. That whole sherry thing is for me is just a dessert after dinner whiskey.
Well, I think both they both fill that role for me because of the sweetness. I think they're both near overpoweringly sweet.
Okay, the PX definitely. I think the Tawny, or out of the two, the PX by far. The Tawny maybe, but I'm not getting that so much.
Would you consider these to meet your expectations of a Speyside?
No, not really. They're pretty left of centre for a Speyside, yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same. Like I kind of get the feeling that because we don't have the, I don't feel that I have the words to be overly descriptive with these as I have been with previous whiskies, because I think these are almost, they're concentrated. Like the finishes are what make the whiskey, as opposed to the malt making the whiskey.
Yeah.
So,
and that goes back to what I'd mentioned earlier about how it's almost difficult to get just a straight up BenRiach.
Yep. Yeah, so where you'd have, say you were doing an ex-sherry Glenfiddich, you'd have that Glenfiddich 12-year-old that you've been drinking for
forever.
years and years. To that's your framework.
It is. Yeah. That's your frame of reference.
Whereas you don't really have a framework for this particular range.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. Yeah, because it wasn't. Shit, man, it wasn't until 2 nights ago that I actually tried a straight-up American oak 10-year-old BenRiach, which was bloody good, nice. I must say. And maybe it was so good because it's not trying to show off, like it just is what it is. Yep. It's pure and simple.
It's the unpretentious version of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, I think I'll be interested in seeing what the Reverend has to say about this one, knowing how much he loves PX. Yeah, but in saying that, he does seem to have a problem with a PX and peat. So I'll be interested in seeing what his opinion is. But I reckon Johnny Duff has done himself.
Duff man.
He's done us all huge favours by doing what he did.
Duff man scored.
He did.
What a guy. What a guy. There's put him in the same category as William Grant of Glenfiddich and Balvenie fame. A few other entrepreneurial types that started building single malt distilleries back in the 1870s, 80s and 90s. But yeah, jack of many trades. Ran a hotel in Aberdeenshire, and at one point, as we mentioned, he managed Glendronach. Pretty much had whiskey in his blood. So in 1876, he founded Glenlossie with 2 business partners, and after 10 years of that joint, he decided to take his family and head to South Africa, and he spent several years attempting to set up a distillery there.
Jeez, that would have been... That'd be hard today, let alone fuck it back then.
I'm trying to think of who was the president was at the time. It was Paul. His name was... But that was his anglicised name, Paul. It might have even been Kruger.
Because that'd have been the days of still hardcore appetite.
Actually, well, it was in the Republic of South Africa, which I think was under British...
so it was before the Brits left.
Yeah, it was before the Brits left. And the president, seemed to be damn opposed to most things British.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, when that didn't work out, he travelled to Kentucky and spent several years trying to set up a distillery there as well.
You would have thought he'd have more fucking luck setting up a distillery in Kentucky than in South Africa.
But was it But him being from Britain and Kentucky being in the South, maybe that's...
Yeah.
They saw him as a... Who were they? Redcoats? Is that what they were called? My history is shit.
Yeah.
I'm no good at history whatsoever.
American history is something that I've roundly ignored for my entire life.
Yeah. I think they were the Redcoats, it was the battle between the Confederates. The Confederates were the South, and the Redcoats were the North.
I think I'm confident enough in saying that the Confederacy was the South.
Yeah.
That's about...
Because the Confederate flag is... like Dimebags guitar.
That's correct.
God rest his soul.
Yep.
So you could see why, if my terminology is indeed correct, and I'll look into this further, and if not, I might just delete this whole segment when I edit it. No, I won't. I'll forgive my ignorance. Feel free to tweet or whatever and just absolutely bash us.
Or just, correct us and educate us. Yeah, either or.
Yeah, whatever tickles your fancy.
Whatever floats your boat.
People can't type without being outraged on the internet.
Oh, that's true.
I can't go to sleep, Mom. Somebody's wrong on the internet. But we do have to admire Duffman's ambition and his obsession with whiskey. And after those failed attempts, he came back to Scotland in the 1890s. Managed the Bonaccord distillery near Aberdeen in 1892 and then set up Longmorn in 1894, followed by BenRiach distillery in 1898, which was, as we said, was open for about 20 minutes. So when you look at it, he's managed a hotel, several distilleries, he's built 3 and attempted to build 2 overseas. Like I am going to get nowhere near that level of achievement in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's a driven man. That's the fucking Richard Branson of distilleries in the 1890s for sure.
I reckon he probably tried to put wings on a barrel.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Good on him. What a fucking legend.
Cheers, Duff Man.
Fuck yeah, Duff Man. Sláinte.
That was nice. The wood's coming out a bit in that. I've sort of been going back between the Tawny and the PX.
Yeah, the Tawny softens a little after the PX, but not a hell of a lot, and doesn't tend to open up.
Tawny, it's got that. The Tawny's got that sort of bite, the top end bite on the nose. That's it's almost, I guess, sour in comparison to the sweetness of the PX.
Yeah, the PX for mine is just the better balance between the two.
Okay.
But I think that's because I find the Tawny just slightly too big. I want a little bit more wood, and I want a little bit more actual malt in the Tawny. Whereas I get a little bit more of the malt and the wood in the PX. Okay. I feel.
So yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the opposite, and I'm just starting to get almost like a sweet coffee or a green coffee even on the Tawny. Whereas the PX, for my money, is just the balance or the blend between the wood and the sweetness is just way too sugary for my money.
I'm not fond of the power of suggestion. I can now very clearly smell coffee and the fucking pork. Certainly wasn't there. Well, I wasn't picking it up before.
Well, it's only very light, sort of. I see it as.
It's just a hint.
Often up to the right. It took a while for it to come through. But it's like green coffee, like it hasn't been roasted or something.
Yeah, it's not fully realised.
And now, yeah, after going to the Tawny, back to the PX. Little things tend to open up in this. This has a sourness to it as well.
I wonder what that comes from.
But it's more... candied something. Like a warhead lolly or something like that.
I wonder what the back of the bottle has to say. Located in the northeast region of Morayshire, the heartland of malt Scotch whisky, BenRiach displays the traditional charm of a Speyside distillery. Matured in traditional style in American bourbon barrels, the whisky is then finished in Pedro Ximinez sherry butts, sourced from the bodegas of Jerez de la Frontera in Andalusia, southern Spain. During the second period of maturation, the whisky derives many interesting characteristics specific to the Pedro Ximinez butt. So it's basically the same blurb as the Tawny Port with just...
interchangeable.
Yeah.
Interchangeable nouns.
That's not overly creative, but yeah, I mean, I suppose it's probably what I'd do if I was a lazy designer.
Yeah, minimum input, maximum gain.
Yep. And actual consistency as well. I mean, annoying consistency to some people, but yeah, most people aren't going to analyse it with anywhere near that kind of depth, so they're going to get away with it. I wonder if the last line will be during the second period of maturation in this peated casks.
Okay.
No.
Actually, we should maybe consider moving on to the Septendecim. And I only just noticed today that little gold embossed stamp, and in our conversation before we started, how I sort of was under the impression that their in-house maltings would most likely contribute to the peated.
You did mention that actually.
Yeah, and this has a little badge on it that says BenRiach Floor Maltings.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So
it's a much
really,
lighter
really
coloured
nice.
whiskey, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
obviously
much more
because it's not picking up that colour from the sherry
golden
or the
straw.
or the tawny.
Yeah, as opposed to more of a weak tea. Actually, this is like a light cold.
Yeah, like a light pale gold, more like a. Yeah, it's a pale gold.
Yeah, it's like a well hydrated urination.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, straight up, yeah.
Oh wow. Oh fuck! I love.
It's
peat.
hard to even compare.
I just fucking love peat.
There's something like a tea or something on the bottom of that peat that you don't get with like a Lafroig or a Lagerfüllen or a Ardbeg.
Yeah, and it's lacking that iodine.
Yeah.
Kind of overtone as well, which really encompasses the salt and the like I always, anytime I have a Lagerfüllen or a Lafroig or an Ardbeg, that first couple of mouthfuls, it's like your whiskey's been drenched in the water, the waves smashing into the rock, and the salt water.
It's like
kind of
distilled seaweed.
Pardon me. But yeah, that first mouthful is always like drinking whiskey and beach. Whereas that I can smell the peat and the salt, the peat and the smoke, but there's no salt here. There's no.
Yeah, I don't get that so much. Still get that surprised at that kind of that tea. It's almost akin to the was it Loch Lomond, 18-year-old, that same sort of tea.
Yeah, the tea and leather and yeah, that was
almost like a peated version of that, but definitely not on the palate. Oh, geez, the robe on this is gorgeous.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That's
That
nice.
really
nice
is.
and oily.
That's the pick of the three, robe-wise, for sure, for mine.
I do love me a deep-coloured whiskey, though. That PX has a gorgeous colour.
Yeah, it's very pretty. Real deep amber.
But I've always found peated expressions tend to, what they lack in colour, they make up for on the nose and on the palate.
Worlds apart, aren't they? So you're right, there's a little bit of like aged tea in there. I think it's I think there's tobacco in there as well. Not tobacco smoke, but the actual tobacco.
I didn't get it so much on the nose, but that's because I've already sipped. But on the palate, definitely that tobacco leaf. Yeah, some sort of organic. Maybe not so much tea anymore. More tobacco leaf, I think is.
It's very earthy.
My God, this is good. It's
Oh,
very,
wow.
very hard to compare this expression to the other two, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
so first mouthful, there's none of that overpowering spice or vapor that you experience on the first
Yeah, there's
two.
no
It's-
nasal...
You know, there's no separation between the whiskey and the vapor of the whiskey. Like it's a soft, smooth whiskey on the palate. It coats the tongue perfectly. Long
Long peaty
on
finish. It's still going.
And it's the peat, while dominant on the nose, is a wonderful accompaniment on the palate. It's not like the port or the sherry, and it's crowding out everything else. It's a beautiful accompaniment. The softness of the dram. It's
Yeah, that is incredibly soft and smooth.
like that glow that I said with the tawny port started at the clavicle, with the PX started toward the back of the tongue.
Yep.
That glow starts on the lips with this. It's this smooth, silky, sultry, gentle kiss that just travels along the roof of the mouth and just glides down the back of the throat and expands.
Do you need a moment alone?
That's fucking good whiskey.
That really is, especially
That's exceptional whiskey.
put in perspective, like in comparison. That's
These are both really good whiskies.
Yeah.
This is a fucking
that
exceptional
is exceptional.
whiskey.
Yeah. We do have a slight bias towards the peat, but
Look,
fuck me, like,
I love peat, but it's not just the peat here. It's almost they're like different vehicles. Like these guys are like the top end Holden and Ford consumer vehicles. Right there, they've got all the bells and whistles. They're sexy. They drive well. But at the end of the day, this thing's a fucking Rolls Royce.
yeah.
It's fucking class. This thing is the company that's been making cars before these guys got car making chops under their belt. It's just it's so refined. It really is. It's refined. It's classy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unpretentious as fuck. It is, it is exactly what it says it is. It is a peated 17-year-old piece of heaven.
Getting a little bit of pear out of that as well.
Interesting. I'm not picking up much sweetness in it. So for me, I can definitely that tobacco leaf that's on the nose is on the palate. It's not a taste or even a smell, but it's the feel of a library, like a leather book
Nice old
library.
This is giving me like a lot of warmth across the chest.
It expands once it gets where the PX, the glow started at the clavicle. That's where the glow expands for this stuff, because it's this beautiful. It's sultry. It's and then it gets to here, and it just the glow expands throughout the chest. And just loosens you up a little.
Yeah, right through the heart and lungs.
This is an exceptional peated expression from a distillery that I've only tried another peated expression from, which was the batch 1.
Oh yeah.
and it didn't impress me anywhere near this. And the batch one, I think, was a no-age statement.
14 years difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that is something I would be really, really happy to give to anyone that was a Speyside lover, that was a hardcore Speyside lover, and just went, no, I don't do peat, I don't do Isla, it's too rough.
What if they said
this would be the whiskey I would have given to you to try and convert you to being a peat man, because you were a Speyside man,
even if I was a flat earther?
Oh, dude.
We probably wouldn't be friends if that was my belief.
I fucking guarantee.
Because I don't think we'd be friends if that was your belief.
Well, I think that if I met someone that I was friends with and they turned into a flat earther, I'd break up with them, like officially, and probably brutally. And I'd be upset about it too. You did this to me. You did this to me.
You brought this on yourself.
It's funny that you bring it up. I had a conversation not a day or two ago with someone that started with, I watched an interesting YouTube documentary the other day. Now, you know when someone fucking starts a conversation with, I watched an interesting YouTube fucking documentary the other day, that they are either going to tell you that man didn't land on the moon, or, that someone... or
the World Trade Center was an inside job.
The government was responsible for 9/11. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a conspiracy theory, and I love a conspiracy theory discussion, because they're very illuminating conversations to have with people. You find out a lot about someone when you have those kind of conversations with them.
Okay, so it's more about the caliber of person than it is about the actual content of the conspiracy.
I quite like, ridiculous, theories. They're fun to explore sometimes. But I don't consider the flat earth theory to be a ridiculous theory. And the thing that offended me in this conversation, because my initial reaction was, oh, fuck off. There's no such thing as a fucking interesting documentary on fucking flat earth. And he turned around and went, no, he actually made some really, really interesting points. Kind of, I could start to see where they were coming from. I'm like, oh, well, of course. I mean, all you have to do is suspend any fucking understanding of physics to start thinking that they might be coming from somewhere. I mean, you're right. If you do all of a sudden fucking suspend all understanding of physics, then it could be an interesting conversation. But you can't fucking suspend all understanding of physics just for the sake of a conversation with a fucking flat earther. It's the sort of conversation
you'd have when you're like 9. Like, imagine if there was no gravity.
But that's an okay conversation to have. You can imagine what it's like to have no gravity.
Imagine if the
Can
Earth
you
was
actually
flat.
imagine the Earth being fucking flat?
I cannot imagine the Earth being flat.
Okay.
Like you said, I have a loose grasp on physics.
That's it.
Kind of understand how things large enough have mass, and therefore, like, the more mass you have more gravity.
And gravity pulls from all directions at the same time, creating spheres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a man of science, for sure.
Like, now, my grasp of physics doesn't extend far past the ordinary person's. I'm certainly not an expert. I'm not an expert in anything except procrastination.
No Brian Cox.
No.
No Neil deGrasse Tyson.
But the only way for the Earth to possibly be flat is for everything that we accept as true in physics to be wrong. Now, that's some kind of fucking conspiracy theory.
Okay, the next person... If I ever meet someone that's a flat earther, I'm going to buy them a fucking shovel and just dig, motherfucker. I'll pay you to dig. Just dig and tell me what's on the other side.
It fucking boggles my mind. So I've had one conversation with one person that considers themselves a flat earther. Now, I still, at the end of that conversation, didn't know whether I was going to punch them or not at the end of it because of the just sheer fucking ignorance. Because everything that was brought up, every point that they made was very easily dismissed with my rudimentary understanding of fucking physics. And any follow-up comment was then, oh, they're just lying to you. Well, who the fuck is lying to me and what the fuck are they lying about? Be specific, for fuck's sake. You can't
I love
sit there.
the omnipresent they.
Oh, and they're lying. What the fuck are they getting out of this? Who is fucking benefiting from fucking making 7 billion people think they're living on a round planet when actually it's a flat one?
Chemtrails, bro.
Fuck. Like, I acknowledge everyone's right to believe whatever the fuck they want to believe, but I do not acknowledge the right for them to fucking steal my fucking time talking about it. Like, that's not okay. As far as I'm concerned, I honestly don't think I can talk to the dude that says he's a flat earther again. And I don't know if that is a reflection on me or on him. Like, you know, is that not fair on my behalf?
I think it's perfectly acceptable.
Am I supposed to just accept the fact that some people will always think that the earth is flat even though it's fucking not?
Hey, it worked for Stranger Things. Isn't it the Upside Down? Isn't they were whole flat earthers?
And the point you make is right as well. I mean, how far do you have to dig down before you get through the other side?
And then what happens? Like, maybe it's the shell of a really, really fucking big sphere that just seems flat.
Oh, beautiful. That'd be so meta. But the question that I posed to this person that I actually know who claims to be a flat earther is, well, explain gravity. And they went, well, the earth is moving up all the time. So it's like it's on a lift. I'm like, well, what the fuck is pushing it up? So, well, I don't know. Dude, come on, if you... Maybe some kind of cosmic fucking pulley system? Like, there needs to be an answer. Like, if you're...
Just ask anyone from Bible Belt. No, it's God. God's pushing it up. We're trying to get closer to God.
I don't know, man.
I'm not satisfied with any of this.
It shouldn't upset me as much as it does, but it does. It really does.
I thoroughly get disheartened by people's ignorance, just sheer blind ignorance.
And it's willful ignorance as well. Like, to make the decision that, no, you're all wrong, the earth isn't round, it's actually flat, I know better than you, and my science is better than yours. Like, that is the kind of willful ignorance that actually makes me want to throttle people.
Yeah, that's the seventh child of the third wife of Mormons.
Just choke the fuck out of the ignorance. So it's not you I hate, it's your ignorance. Yeah. Look, if there are any flat earthers listening, stop. Put the fucking device down. Don't listen to us anymore.
Just go and eat some glass, please.
Yeah. Just go and read about physics.
Or just, better yet, just go get a hysterectomy or a vasectomy, please.
Yeah, that's it. Take yourself out of the gene pool. You can believe whatever the fuck you want, but you're not allowed to raise kids.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to...
And indoctrinate.
You're not allowed to perpetuate stupid. Yeah, just don't. Go and take the warning labels off all the electronic appliances that you own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let evolution sort it out. Fuckers. Oh, but gee, that whiskey makes fucking everything all right again, though.
That is really, really good.
Honestly, I could probably have a conversation with a flat earther if I had a bottle of this in my hand and I was taking constant small sips.
At least once it was empty, you could slash the dude's
Rain
throat.
him with it, yeah. Because you wouldn't do that with a full bottle.
Assuming that it's a man. Oh, the equality here. I'll happily slash a woman's throat.
Just as long as the bottle's empty. Don't
True.
be wasted 17-year-old whiskey.
Mm.
Not for any reason.
At least it'd sterilise the wound if there was a little bit in there.
I still think that would be an unacceptable waste. Like there is other whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can always, I mean, you could spit on it. Doesn't urine have antibacterial properties as well?
No, there are. It was discovered recently that there are actually bacteria in your bladder, in your urine.
Well, there's bacteria everywhere, but don't they have?
Yeah.
But okay.
I think it's the ammonia in urine. Like that's a cleaning agent.
Mm.
I don't know if that's any good at cleaning wounds. I guess it's got to be better than nothing. It's probably better than licking a wound, actually.
Yeah, there'd be
Your
far
mouth
more
is a
bacteria
pretty-
in your mouth.
Your mouth is a pretty horrendous place,
It would be.
like yours in particular.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I was actually going to ask you, is it true that there originally was camel urine in shampoo? And then I realised that you are probably as unqualified to fucking answer that as I am.
Sorry, my stint at Johnson & Johnson's was extremely short.
I mean, in fairness, though, I was asking you because you're the only other person in the room. I wasn't because I was assuming you had, the required experience to give you the answer.
No answers there. But I hear you have an answer for if I was to ask you about what the fuck was the Pattison crash.
Fucking those dudes. Those dudes were loose. Loose. And proper cunts, too.
Mm.
Like, and I mean that in all aspects of the way that you can, possibly take it. I mean, for a couple of blokes that, got together with their old man and were dairy farmers.
Is that a Dado Paddo?
Dado Paddo, yeah, Wally and Robbo Paddo.
Or Daddy Paddy?
The three of them and Dad's partner,
A business partner?
business partner, were dairy farmers that then went into the wholesale business and then realised quickly that dairy wholesale was nowhere near as fucking lucrative as whiskey wholesaling.
Mm.
So they went to the bank. Now, what did you say $20,000 was in £20,000? What was the conversion? £20,000 was about 5 million, 4.9 million or something like that into the
Yeah, 4.9 million. Pretty sure. Yeah, £20,000, 4.9 million Australian dollars, or pretty much 2.5, say 2.6 million British pounds.
So those dudes floated their company and they raised £150,000 and then spent £20,000 on advertising, which was just unheard of in the day. No one had advertising budgets like that.
So it's, in excess of $30 million by today's standards. That is crazy.
It is, right? And I mean, as we said before, it was a golden time for whiskey because
And when are we talking there? Like 1890s?
Yeah. That's 1896 was when they floated the company on the stock market.
Unreal.
Yeah. So you've got this golden time for whiskey when you've got France and England can't drink anywhere near as much wine as they had been, especially considering they were sourcing so much of their wine from France and the cognac and the brandy. So these dudes just going, fuck yeah, we're in on this. They've, and having a look at some of their ads, they had the knack. Like they were years ahead of their time. Really, strong theme. So they were playing on the imperialistic theme and just they had a really deep understanding of psychology by the looks of it. I mean, successful advertising. I mean, and they just got bigger and bigger, and they became. I love this. Honestly, this is the best advertising thing. If they did this today, people would lose their shit.
This would be illegal.
This is a fantastic campaign. The team bought 500 African grey parrots and taught them fucking phrases such as Pattison's whiskey is best. Buy Pattison's whiskey. And then sent the travelling salesman to give them away to pub owners up and down the country. Fucking genius.
That is unreal.
So there's 500 pubs all of a sudden have got a fucking...
Parrots.
And
screeching at you.
Not just a fucking parrot, but, like a parrot that is screaming at you. that buy Pattison whiskey. Pattison whiskey's the best.
Probably a pretty exotic looking parrot too. Like it'd be a head turner.
Oh, for sure. That's marketing genius.
More so than I don't know if you've ever been to a country pub where there might be a cockatoo or a galah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They capture your imagination.
Yeah.
They're pets to everyone that walks in there. I mean, just brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. And they did gain a reputation for being extravagant.
Yeah,
and
rather flamboyant. Did you hear about they would sometimes purposely show up late to the train station?
Really?
Have you heard? And they'd make sure that all the news, like all the press was around. And then they would proceed to order a private train, which cost something like £5 a minute. They make sure that the press got photos of them getting on a privately ordered train, and they would take that to their meetings in Edinburgh.
That's right, and they had country retreats, and they've just kept building bigger and bigger offices. But yeah, you're right that the train rides were a massive luxury at the time.
Yeah,
I mean, their original advertising budget was $20,000. After a few years, they fucking tripled that to $60,000. The advertising budget. So
astounding.
So that's like fucking $15 million. And they bought fucking stakes in Glenfarclas, a grain distillery, Oban, a brewery as well in Edinburgh. They really went all the way. People started to get a bit of a hint that it was going a bit south though. And this is that's what I'm saying. Loose as fuck. But
so that's where I wonder if this is akin to like that fire documentary that I mentioned to you. Was that episode 1, 2?
Oh, I think that was episode 2. Yeah, I started seeing that.
Yeah, you should check it out, because I think that he got to a certain point where this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then the rug gets pulled out from under him, and he's just like, well, fuck, I can't bail out now. And I wonder if these guys were kind of the same. If this is going really well, this is going really well. Holy fuck. Shit, we've fucked up here. There's holes. Well, just keep going. Just keep running with it.
Well, it's like the fucking, banking crashes. Like the global financial collapse in 2008. Was so many people were aware, so many of the perpetrators were aware that they were fucking walking on eggshells and we're just waiting for it to go. I think you're probably right. But these guys, the fuck thing is that they didn't just take themselves down. Yeah. They took the entire fucking industry down with them.
Pretty much,
and there's a reason
there was
no
like
new
10
distillery was commissioned or built for 65 fucking years.
Yeah. Oh, was it? Yeah, it was the best part of 50, wasn't it?
Sorry, you're right. From 1900 to 1965. But
that was when BenRiach started. Surely there was something that came up a little bit
there would have been something that came early.
There was,
best part of 50
came
years.
out of mothballing or...
But, I mean, probably the reason they had such a big impact on the industry in general is because all this was, you got to remember, this was all blended whiskey. So
that's what I find insane to imagine, is just that blends were hot shit at the time.
And that was another testament to the marketing genius of these fuckers, that they could convince people.
I guess if they're all trying to suit a particular flavour profile, then blends do make sense. But geez, the complexity of a single malt, to me, for my money, just cannot be beaten.
And that's it. Like, as when you blend, more than one single malt, all of a sudden you've got. You're right. For me, the single malts, it's the purity of the spirit, and that's why we can get so passionate about it. But these guys were fucking caught, passing off cheap Irish swill with just a very small amount of actual fine Scottish whiskey in it. Passing it off as fine. That's right, fine old Glenlivet. And Glenlivet was the name of the Speyside region at the time. As opposed to the actual Glenlivet distillery. It wasn't the Glenlivet distillery.
So the distillery, they took their name from a prestigious region.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain that, or maybe they were just synonymous. That the region was known as Glenlivet.
Unless
at the time.
they are from Glenlivet, in which case then double barrel. Well done, very well done.
But the fine old Glenlivet was considered a watchword for excellence at the time. Okay. So, they're passing off cheap swill. Not only did they their creditors they took down, like they overextended hugely.
Oh yeah, didn't they? value. They overvalued a lot of their properties.
Oh, they cooked the fuck out of their books.
A lot of the whiskey that they'd sold, they had to buy back at an inflated price, and I think they used their own capital to pay out investors as well.
Yeah,
they're just digging themselves a really deep hole here.
Yeah, well, that's at the end of the day, everything had been so overdone, and the value of the stock had been inflated by so much that there was just no way they could save it. And that would have been fine if it was just freaking these blenders, because these guys didn't own a distillery. Yeah, they weren't distilling whiskey. They were independent bottlers.
Yeah. So basically brokers.
That's it. They were brokers with a real gift for marketing, years ahead of their time.
Yeah.
That because they were unscrupulous and because they just went way too far, these loose motherfuckers, they just brought the industry fucking down. But in saying that, if they hadn't, maybe blended whiskey would still be the rage. And because
I have a feeling that, from what I read and from what I understand, I have a feeling that it might have been a slower burn rather than just a deep dive, the crash, because there was so much supply compared to demand. At one stage, I think like 40% of the whiskey produced was still barreled.
Yeah, right.
Which was something outrageous, like in excess of 30 million gallons or something.
Fuck.
Which a gallon is what is 4 point something liters, I think. So rough guess, it's over 100 million liters, of which at least 40 million liters is just in barrels still.
Yeah, I think
supply was far outweighing demand.
Well, that's because demand, went through the floor, because all of a sudden people couldn't trust what was in their blended whiskey.
Yeah, true. Actually, they might have hurt it
hugely so. Like people didn't want blended whiskey anymore because they didn't trust people after the Pattison scandal. I mean, fucking Robert got 18 months, Walter got 9 months.
Is that all?
Like, these guys are taking everyone for a ride.
And for what was it, embezzlement? I think they got done for. In the
embezzlement
end?
And fraud.
And because there was an auditor found a disparity of, was it £500,000?
I think that
this is 1902 or something.
Yeah.
So this is what roughly 500. Jesus Christ. So okay, if it's 5 million for every 20,000, so it's 25. So it's 525. So $125 million Australian.
That's insane.
That are rough. So be conservative and say $100 million is still a stupid amount of money. And imagine if we did the same thing with that much cash, and just 9 months jail. Yeah,
exactly. And there was an outcry about it as well, because they were so lenient.
That is rude.
And there was, compared to other offenders, who got a lot more time for a lot less impact, there was a bit of an outcry.
I think rightly so. I would have wanted testicles.
I would have wanted blood.
I would have. And a cask of whiskey to put those testicles in.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, so it's...
and none of your teaspooned Irish swill either.
But it was such a severe reaction that the whiskey bubble popped. It exploded, and that was it for blended whiskey. And
and there wasn't there. They had, was it 10 associates investors as well, or partial investors, other companies as well, that they went down.
Yeah, a bunch of the different distilleries went down. Like they owned majority shares in several distilleries that went down, and they did recover slightly in the years before World War One, but it wasn't until the years after the Second World War that they really did bounce back. And
we had US prohibition in there as well, which would have hurt.
That's it. Prohibition in the 30s. Probably the only decent thing that came from it is the fact that now the single malt industry is so fucking strict. It's so it's maintained its quality, its reputation. It's been bitten, and I'm sure it's doing everything it can to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I just thought that was fascinating. Two dudes, that got greedy and were fucking smart, manipulative, and fucking brilliant marketing.
Tandem-handedly collapsed an entire industry.
Collapsed an industry, which you never know what may have happened if it hadn't gone down that way. But
like I said, I have a feeling that supply was far outweighing demand.
It probably would have, but they hadn't broached that fucking American market yet. That was still it wasn't until kind of after Prohibition and World War II that Scotch whiskey really hit the American market, and even then, like it was always competing against America's own corn-based nectar, but who knows what could have been, eh?
Will always be inferior in my eyes.
In my eyes as well. That's why this isn't a bourbon podcast.
Damn straight. No, I think it's going to be it'll be close to a cold day in hell that we'd probably sample grains on here.
Oh, they'd have to be fucking exceptional grains.
They would be. That would have to be sponsored grains as
100%.
well.
Yeah, they'd have to be grains that someone, that...
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry to go out and buy anything.
No.
It's corner rye. But I'll tell you what I have done here, though. I've added a few drops of water.
Oh, yeah? I might do the same. I have been... I've become better at leaving a little bit in my glass.
Yeah, and it's really softened the tawny on the nose.
I'm hesitant to add a drop to the 17-year-old, but I will, just for shits and giggles. That 17-year-old's fucking damn near perfect.
Yeah, it's just the tawny's just softened. It's not so heavy on the nose anymore.
Well, the tawny has softened, hasn't it?
Yeah, nice.
And even
I think it's almost honeyed wood now.
Yeah, it's softer, sweeter, more honeyed notes coming through rather than the punch of the port.
Yeah, somewhere between. Yeah, nice thick honey though. It's still got but it's the sweetness of the port.
Oh. I think I prefer that with the drop.
Yeah, same here.
It doesn't...
Hasn't eased off the pepper.
It almost opens it up too much on the palate, though. Yeah, I'm not sure. It opened it up nicely. I liked it without the water. I liked it with the water as well. It's a nice dram. You've just got to be prepared that it's, very port heavy.
Yeah.
If you go in with that expectation, you are going to be fucking delightfully whelmed. You are going to be neither overwhelmed nor underwhelmed. You are going to be spot on whelmed. But if you go in with an expectation that it's subtle, you're going to be...
Yeah. I think on the nose, your first sniff will be like a bitch slap.
See that...
But that with a bit of water, I find it's really exaggerated the bitterness. I think on the finish, it's quite bitter.
Yeah, it separated the finish for me.
Yeah, that's true as well.
I didn't understand what had happened.
Spread it out.
Yeah, it kind of... It was like there was... Almost like, a cream separates in a Luxor. That's how it felt, that there were two distinct profiles that were edging further and further away each other with the water. But there was only very little left in my glass when I added that drop, so that may have had the impact. There's a bit more of the PX in the glass when I added this drop. Opens up nicely on the nose.
That's really given way to the wood now.
The wood really comes through. The toffee's kind of softened to like a treacle.
I get more, less less really high-end sugary, less of the fairy floss cotton candy that I was getting before, and now, like you said, yeah, it's more treacle.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like there's some pudding in there. There's some fruit as well that isn't just the sherry. I think I was right. I think there is banana in there. I think it may be. I think you mentioned pear in the peated.
Yeah, I was getting more
but
pear.
I'm getting some pear in this now.
That's okay. I didn't want to say that for the risk of sounding confused, so I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, no, it's.
But almost okay to me. It's more stone fruit. It's like peach or apricot.
Actually, you're right. It's not pear. It's plum.
Okay, yeah.
It is. You're right. It's a stone fruit
more than.
Yeah, it's a slightly deeper stone fruit.
I'm surprised I came up with that. Actually, you're usually the man with the plan. Oh, it's much softer on the palate too now. That sweetness isn't pinching my glands anymore.
Oh, wow.
That has benefited greatly from a drop.
Yeah. It really has. That's opened it right up.
That is super smooth.
All of a sudden, it's got a bottom end to it. I'm not smoked, but
and it's a hint of that sort of tobacco-y kind of tea or something. But it's rich. It's nice and rich, but it sits really low.
Yeah, it's earthy. There's an earthy undertone to it that's kind of.
Oh, geez, that's nice. That's
the earthy undertone is sitting under a big fig tree, like a Moreton Bay fig.
lovely.
On a sunny day. It's a beautiful day. Maybe one of those big Moreton Bay figs on North Sydney Oval.
Oh, yeah.
You know, sitting under there, watching the world go by.
I was thinking up by the Nambucca River.
I said that earthiness is sitting there in that shade, feeling the warmth around you, kind of digging your toes in the dirt. Yeah. You know, just...
It does have that nice earthy, like the sodden earth kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, that humus.
I think the PX benefit.
It certainly did. That without a drop, I'm still all tawny. With a drop, I'll say the PX was superior.
I agree.
Did you drop the?
I did. I put one wee drop in this, and I'm nervous. I am nervous.
Yeah, it's
affected the robe.
3 in each.
All of a sudden, the robe's nowhere near as impressive as it was.
Almost non-existent now.
Hasn't affected the nose too much.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, that didn't benefit.
No, that was unfortunate.
Yeah,
it brought out a lot of sweetness in this, though.
Yeah, but it separated everything.
Yeah.
Again, same thing as it did with the Tawny. Just what was married together perfectly has kind of just separated a little and is now diverging.
Yeah, it does make it easier to pick out the different...
It does. So that leather really comes through, I feel. The accompaniment with the peat. Okay,
yeah, I personally taste that more as sort of tea or tobacco leaf.
Sorry, you're right. I think tobacco was what I meant to say there.
Okay.
But they exist at the same end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Quite akin to each other. Definitely stable mates.
Yeah.
But there's also it's given a sweetness which is reminiscent of the PX cask. Tiny little bit of top end sweetness. The peat becomes quite subdued.
Yeah, the peat's peat softens on the palate for sure.
Well, that could go either way. It has merits to a drop, but
Now, for mine, the fact that the viscosity changed so much, I wouldn't add the drop again. I wouldn't. I mean, look, if anyone, listening, tries these whiskies, by all means, no matter what we say, always add a drop to any dram you're trying for the first time. For that last fucking half mouthful, add a drop. Don't add a drop at the start. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But always add a drop if it's a dram you're trying for the first time, just to learn or to appreciate
but it also
what the drop does.
Like we said, it's separated a lot of the flavors, and it might help you put your finger on something that you couldn't quite describe.
Yep. And it'll allow you to work out what the profiles are that you really like and where you want to continue to go. Because at the end of the day, unless you're Jim Murray and you get paid to drink every fucking whiskey that you can get your hands on, and literally paid to drink every whiskey, unless you're that dude, man, you're not going to get a chance to try every fucking whiskey. So you've only got so many hours, you've only got so much time, you've only got so much money. So you kind of got to find which direction you kind of want to go down, and little things like adding a drop helps. But for mine, for mine, I the order of the pour is the order of the.
Sorry, reverse order is the order of preference.
Yeah, I'm giving my medals in reverse order. I'm going bronze, silver, gold.
Okay, the only thing we'd do differently, or I would do differently, is switch the gold and silver. The silver and bronze. I'd give bronze to the PX, silver to the Tawny, and gold to the peated.
I can understand that.
So, got a rating.
Look,
this is going to be. I think I'm going to. It might confuse punters here by giving something a higher rating than a whiskey that I prefer. But I'd like to hear.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to hear what you've got to say.
Look, this is going to be somewhat in line, but not quite with Lefroy. I'm going to go 8.4 for the port, 8.6 for the sherry, and I'm going to go a flat 9 for the peated, and that's the best I've gone so far.
Yeah.
But for the way that this particular Speyside distillery has produced this particular peated expression, I think is fucking outstanding.
Yeah, true.
And I think it's worthy
especially
of a 9.
And I think, okay, love the fact that it's made from their own malt floor.
Yes. Fuck you.
So almost think
it almost gets a 0.1 for that.
Yeah,
That legit almost does.
That's why I'm trying to start at the top. So if that's my top rating, like what's the highest I can give it? And I keep stopping at 9.2. I think really enjoy the BenRiach Septendecim 17-year-old peated single malt.
Yeah, it's fucking superb.
Yeah, I think I might have to sit with a 9.2. Then if I go to the Tawny, probably an 8.5, and the PX an 8.2.
I think that's reasonably laid out. I don't disagree with you. I'm going to give the 17-year-old the extra 0.1.
9.1.
I'm going to give it the extra 0.1 because it's its own malt flora.
Alright, let's check out what a Bog Tata Jim has to say. Hopefully they're all in here.
They will be.
Septendecim's in here. And what do we got? 15s. There's actually no 15s in here.
No. Are you serious?
No, there's not. But this is this year's Bible, and they might be last year's releases.
Oh yeah,
2018 releases.
Probably 2017 releases actually.
Actually, yeah, you're right. So all I can say is the Septendecim, really.
I'll break the phone rule now and see if I can fucking.
Oh yeah. The Septendecim, anyway, 93.5.
Yes, nice.
Proof, not that it is now needed, that Islay is not alone in producing phenomenal phenols. Yeah, damn straight. Oh. Wow, the 35-year-old. He only gave 90. This rate's higher.
Wow.
Then I'm guessing from the comments for the 10-year-old, Jim actually worked at BenRiach. So there's a much fatter spirit than from any time when I worked the stills. There is a 17-year-old Pedro Ximinez sherry finish, which he's given an 81. And he's bitched about the PX casks. The prevailing problem with the PX cask is that the influence of the hypersweet grape can have an overwhelming effect on a whiskey. So while a number of eye-watering succulent tones might arrive thanks to the grape influence, the overall picture of the malt may be obscured. That has happened to an extent here, and the bitter blood orange finale doesn't help either. Actually, find that pretty succinct. That the overall picture of the malt has been obscured.
Yeah, that is very true.
That's a pretty good description, even though that's a 2-year-old. It's probably the same dram, just 2 years older.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. But there's nothing in here. Oh, there's a 21-year-old Tawny port. But that's hard to compare to a 15. We might be out of luck here.
I've got. Let's see what I got. Nah, unfortunately. I don't think. I've got the club tasting notes. Because it had a reference to Jim Murray there, but no, I can't find a.
Alright, unfortunately, these ones go begging.
Right. Well, I'd reckon, based on how we've gone so far, that Jim would fucking agree with us.
100%.
Yeah, fucking oath. He's on board.
We are. After all, we're like that. About as close as me and Jesus.
So, what kind of TV show are these whiskies, Rick?
Oh, jeez. Let's go creative and experimental, as we mentioned earlier. Takeshi's Castle.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I don't know if I can stand by that.
Yeah. It's was going to say, I'm interested in hearing your justification on this.
I need no justification.
I apologise for nothing.
Yeah, I really got nothing. Creative and experimental. But that's okay. That's too dark. I was gonna say maybe Black Mirror, but these whiskies are way lighter and happier.
Yeah.
Than
I agree.
You got anything?
I'm trying to come up with a fucking band.
Okay.
Literally, because the whole thing is creative and experimental. But you're right. It's what flavour of creative and experimental. I hadn't even started thinking about TV show. That's why I threw that at you.
No, Jesus, you're buying some time.
Yeah, fuck it up. Big time. I was going to base my answer on your answer. No, look, creative and experimental.
Okay, there's this band, I'm not sure if I've ever introduced you to them, Canadian, called Unexpect. I don't know how to begin to describe it. If System of a Down and Mr. Bungle and Between the Buried and Me had an orgy, that might be the wet spot.
Fuck, I'm intrigued now.
Yeah.
Very intrigued.
But it still seems, when I actually look at the whiskey, I'm like, oh no, it seems too abrasive. Like they were all really smooth.
They're all nice, smooth whiskies. That's 17.
So it needs to have that smoothness to it.
I was thinking maybe Bowie.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because he pushed the envelope for his time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and while he had some, dark elements, he was, he really explored the pop terrain to the point where it almost wasn't pop music because it was experimental, it was creative, it was
true. Yeah,
he went down a different road and had a very long career as a result of the success.
And I think also the different personas that he had for
that's it.
The different phases that he went through as akin to the different wood finishes.
Because each phase had its own definitive musical style.
Yeah, true. And look.
Yeah, very much so. So that was the closest I could come with musically to it. I'm really struggling with a genre or particular television show. It feels to me almost like early day experimental reality TV, like when reality TV actually could have been a genuine social experiment, like maybe one of those first seasons of Big Brother or something like that. But I feel that that's also a bit cheap. Yeah. I don't think it fits correctly, but I can't think of a better answer.
Yeah. That's what when I said Takeshi's Castle, I was also thinking of like it's a knockout. Like one of those, yeah.
See, I can't weigh in on that because I don't know. I haven't seen Takeshi's Castle.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, I need to enlighten you. Just think it, crazy Japanese game show. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, I really need you to check some of this shit out. Okay. I don't know if that shit would be I don't know if you'd be allowed to do that sort of stuff to contestants in Australia.
Cool.
think Wipeout, but just more Japanese.
Yeah, I can see that being your thing. I can totally see that being your thing. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Well, I remember, one of my favourite things used to be back in the days when I could order a pizza and smoke a bowl and just watch Wipeout of a Sunday afternoon. That was the wrap up to my weekend.
Yeah, look,
Wipeout
is an interesting choice, but that's just your thing, isn't it? That's.
I love game shows and I like physically interactive contests. I would love to be a contestant on Survivor. I would love to give that a shot.
I actually watched a bit of Survivor this season because someone else in the house was watching it, and invested and involved. Katie loved it, so I caught a few episodes, and I can see why that kind of thing would appeal to people that are into that kind of thing. And yeah, you're a game show dude. I could totally understand why smoking.
Oh, but that's the thing. I don't.
Watching Wipeout would be fucking sweet. So
Wipeout was amazing just because of. Okay, when I was heavily into skateboarding, and if you ever bought a new video, the first thing that I would do is fast forward to the slam section.
Yeah.
I just loved watching people get boned until it becomes compound fracture. When it gets to that level, or if it becomes gnarly facial injuries where you're spitting teeth and blood, that's kind of where I was like, okay, yeah, that's a bit much. So Wipeout was just, it was exactly as the name implied. You're just watching people just, especially fat people in life jackets, just flail helplessly until they plunged into the water in some awkward kind of dive. That really floats my boat.
So have you been digging that Australian Ninja?
Or the Ninja Warrior.
Or are they too accomplished?
No, nowadays, just owing to my lifestyle, yeah, I really, like today, I have not turned on the TV at all.
It's not a bad thing.
And quite often I won't turn on the TV until it's dinner time, and then I'll watch pretty much 15 minutes worth of ads and then go to bed.
Yeah, I'm similar these days. I'm trying to reduce the amount of television that I watch for the simple fact that, yeah, time is your only non-renewable resource.
Yeah,
yeah. Your demands are so taken up.
That's why I don't watch many movies, because I feel like I just can't invest that much time into something that's sedentary.
I get it. That's why I feel bad for binging on an entire fucking season of Community on Sunday. That was my day.
I'd say, in a way, well done, because I still do the same thing. Like, there's a few seasons on the way out now. Like Power, I think, is halfway through season 8, maybe. And I'm waiting till that's all out, so I don't have to wait.
Yeah, just belt it.
Yeah, I will just belt it. A few other things I'm looking forward to as well. Preacher, that was pretty good.
Yeah, you keep telling me that I need to watch that, so yeah. I'm gonna have a crack.
You don't need to, but it's very enjoyable, very entertaining. I know a few people that prefer the graphic novel, and they couldn't get past the first episode, but I knew nothing about it, and I was dead set in. The first episode just teed up everything so good that I just couldn't stop.
Yeah, nice. Well, you very rarely steered me wrong, Rick. Very, very fucking rarely steered me wrong.
No, we have pretty similar tastes.
Well, that is probably a reasonable spot to wrap up. What do you think?
Totally concur.
I told you I'd do it. Well, fucking.
I even tried to lift it up for you.
And you did a wonderful job. Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed our foray over to Speyside.
That was brilliant. This discovered so much about this place that I hadn't. Especially the whole Pattison crash. I had no idea that the whiskey industry suffered so heavily. I had no idea that BenRiach was such a friggin' cool distillery. I'm still in awe of the Puggy. I can't believe that they had their own rail system between two distilleries. That's incredible. And their malting floor is still in production. Like, that's amazing. John Duff, what a ninja. Rachel Barry, what a goddess.
Dr. Barry, absolutely.
What a goddess.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of anything else, I mean, this journey, just doing this and the finding out and learning about the distilleries and the process and the history altogether, it's a great deal of fun. It's very, very fucking rewarding, and it's nice to be able to share it with you. So, Sluncher, my brother.
Sluncher.
Thank you very much, and for all those listening, thank you for listening, and enjoy your dram.
Of Rickus.
I'm Hursty.
Signing out.